welcome to the final lecture in the first IHF Children's Handball Symposium. My name is Courtney Gayen. I am a part of the IHF media team and I am your moderator for this final lecture today. Today we have 3 translation options available if you are joining us on Zoom. We have French, Spanish and Arabic translation. You can find these at the bottom of your screen by clicking the globe icon marked interpretation. If you're watching this on Facebook right now, please check the comments where one of our team is going to share the link to this Zoom, so you can join us here if you have an account and would like to use the translation options. This first IHF Children's Handball Symposium is part of the Virtual Academy launched by the IHF last year to enable global online learning. All of this is part of the IHF Education Centre, available at ihfeducation.ihf.info. This first IHF Children's Handball Symposium has seen now a total of 8 lectures presented by top children's handball experts from around the world. And today we are lucky enough to have 4 of them with us, all of whom you have already seen during the symposium. Dr. Ilona Hapkova, Mr. Craig Rote, Dr. Nabil Taha Al-Shihab, and Dr. Gerard La Sierra. So we are having a bit of a different lecture today called Next Steps in Handball After the Pandemic, which features a bit of a panel discussion and some other elements. Please feel free to ask questions during this lecture and we will address as many of those as we can. And please also note this is being recorded, so you will be able to access it later for on-demand viewing. So welcome everybody, hello.
Thank you, Courtney. Good morning.
Courtney. Just checking to make sure my screen is up since I'm feeding everyone.
Yeah, it's perfect for me.
Okay.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whichever it's appropriate for your time zone. Right now, we miss teaching and coaching handball. We know that our students and players really miss playing the handball too with their friends. The world wants for our return to play, and there is still so many uncertainties.
While some countries have slowly emerged from the pandemic, others lag behind, waiting for conditions to improve.
All of us, the whole world are waiting the day that this pandemic will be over and we can focus on our work, getting more children to play our lovely handball.
With that wonderful day in mind, we will turn our focus now to the future of the sport and we shape the next decade may take.
The agenda for today is simple. It's basically 4 parts with the conclusion. We're going to begin with talking about the future of developing the sport after the pandemic. Then we'll talk about physical literacy, talent identification, and then a short discussion about organized versus or unorganized sports for children. And then we'll finish with the conclusion and really appreciate your time today.
Bad days make good days feels better. Handball sport in general, it is an activity which fulfill your needs, make you a better person, healthier person, and through happiness and sharing the experience, we can look for good days to come. The future of our game, the future of sport and all, and our game after the pandemic, this is where we focus our lecture today, our meeting, and we have listed many things you will gain, enjoy, and take with you in this journey we had in the sessions we had been doing in the past month.
The sport of handball is always evolving, focusing on the safety of the player and making the game more spectacular and enjoyable.
Recent rule changes rely on the development of a broader technical repertoire, improved problem solving, and small group collaborations.
Creating a faster, more dynamic game requires improvements to the methods we use to develop the sport.
Children, handball must reflect these changes while still honoring the history of our beautiful game.
Let's enjoy watching the rest of the sequence as it moves to the modern game.
Because we need to learn from the past, move to the future. The game over decades be more quickly and quickly. You can see more dynamic sports in any area.
And you can also see the changes over time of the speed of the game also.
About the evolution of our methods. Our methods evolve too as the game. We need to go from a singular focus that we had in the past, more oriented to the technical drills, to interactive games that simultaneously develop technical and tactical skills of entire groups. We need to find a balance from the transition between the technical or tactical approach to bring the children more appropriate form to teach them. You can see here on the pictures two approach of the technical and tactical elements which we are focusing through the passing and catching. Then we need the improved quality of our games demands to improve of our method. And please never forget that a child's enjoyment during an activity is the number of the one predictor of their sustained participation in our lovely sport, handball.
The game is still evolving, and over the course of the next decade, we anticipate more changes to come, focusing on increasing the speed of the game and the threat of fast throw-offs, refining passive play and rules governing the last 30 seconds, and continuing improvements in player and goalkeeper safety.
The undefended net has always been the first and primary domain of children's handball. And with the recent rule changes, it has suddenly become a very important factor in the outcomes of the sport's most important games at the Olympics, at the Olympic qualifiers, and the World Championships. We're not here to argue for or against the rule change, but instead to illustrate our relevance in preparing the sport and its players for this dynamic future. Enjoy a few more sequences of the speed of the game before we move on to discuss refining passive play in the last 30 seconds.
To improve the speed of the game and fast throw-offs, we must include exercises, games, and variation of basic game forms. We teach, they learn, and they will apply. To improve goalkeeper retrieval, to the ball long passes to the center court, to improve the quick exchanging of players. Also, to improve the fastest throw-off, including improvement to the rules like jump passes and unregulated release of counter-attack. Ladies and gentlemen, to improve recognition and the quality of shooting and partially defending and undefended goals, and also to improve goalkeepers' skill in their defense of wide range of impressive shots.
Dear
Here we go
participants,
then.
please
The
look at this
Portuguese push
amazing
all the way
video
up,
from the
trying to steal the ball.
qualification for the Olympic Games, Portugal against France.
Here we go then. The Portuguese push all the way up, trying to steal the ball. Free throw. Looking at the clock, 15 seconds. They want to stop the clock. It wouldn't normally be done, but they have now 14 seconds left.
Games and exercise will include objects of the game will fix numerical solutions for joint actions.
Stolen! Oh, the chance is here!
Objects of the game
seconds are ticking
will
away!
prescribe
They've
time
done
pressure,
it!
and objects of the
Rui
game will
Silva
fix numerical
scores!
solutions under
And there
prescribed
won't be time for
pressure.
France! There goes the buzzer!
This
Portugal
game
have
can
done
include
it!
variations
Croatia
of current
are
games
out!
and exercises, as
A
well as
mistake
new
by
concepts for
France
game
on the
and
deep
exercises.
defense, the ball stolen. And the goal by Rui Silva sends Portugal to the Olympics for the first time in their history.
By now, setting a limit of the numbers of passes after the passive play for a warming signal, as you can see on the picture, has been made. There is a need for the creation and improvement of the games and require solution within a determined number of the passes for attackers. The same can now be said of the rules governing the last 30 seconds of the half, which places a premium on timely and TT offensive and defensive action. The tools and skills for solving these problems must be developed during children's handball with games and exercise focused on the unique parameters of these new and adjusted rules.
And here you go, Gerard.
Learning to read the game context while solving the central game problems.
Games and
Regarding-
exercises will include objects of the game with fixed numerical solutions for joint actions, objects of the game with prescribed time pressure, and objects of the game with fixed numerical solutions under prescribed time pressure. These games can include variations of current games and exercises, as well as new concepts for games and exercises. To build the sport of the future, we must make sure kids are properly hydrated, protected from the sun if practicing outdoors, sufficiently rested, and not overtrained. We need to make sure that they have suitable equipment to play safely and train effectively. And we also must develop the coordination and agility, as well as the speed and suppleness to go along with the technical and tactical skills required of this faster, more dynamic gameplay. This evolution of the, oops, sorry, go ahead.
Safety, safety, safety. You as a coach are responsible of the safety of your pupils, your students, your players. As we saw, the kind of exercises you use, the material you are using, the safety procedures you should know before and during and after an injury, and the physical aid equipment, if it's possible, the access to the physical, to the safety procedures that you have to follow if something happens. We cannot say enough about the safety and the safety procedure we have to take. As a coach, as a parent, you are responsible to the safety of your players.
This evolution of the game places great emphasis on our work in children's handball.
Focusing on the dynamic interplay and verbal and non-verbal communication amongst teammates and between opponents.
I'm sorry for technical problems that they had, but now is the moment to point out that learning to read the game context while solving the central game problems.
By developing a highly effective yet broad individual technical skills, repertoire and individual, we need to go to work in the small group and teach tactical skills. I will repeat what already said my colleague Milan Petrinovic in his lecture. The future is of our sports, it's in our hands. During the first webinars on the 4th May, we were asking you about which topic you prefer. We propose you 3 topics and you select one of these topics. It was mostly recommended if we can develop today physical literacy. That please, if you have some complementary question regarding this topic, don't hesitate to write it in the chat now.
Nabil, I have a question for you. What is important for our participants to know about physical literacy?
Okay, there is a proverb says that if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. The LTAD is the long-term athlete development. It's a process of 7 stages where we take the lifelong player or the athlete or the person through several areas where we can provide the foundation for lifelong physical activity and high performance. And it's a program characterized by developmentally appropriate training. You find the appropriate training for the appropriate age. It is a periodization principle that suits the developmental athlete period, which you provide the proper periodization. It is the basic of the work of development for sports.
Nabil, can you explain the long-term athletes development as a paradigm shift?
Yes, it is, Gerard, it is the overall concept of the sport, of from the active start to sport for life, or from the beginning stage to the retirement stage, or to take the sport as a life method or a life principle for you. It is a training, competition, and recovery program. It is used by the biological markers where you identify the sensitive period where different physical abilities, technical ability are suitable for the age of the player. As we can see here, it is very clear that not one size fits all. This is the same persons in different stages of his life, where different methods, different needs, different abilities can be seen. And as a coach, you have to recognize the period of the player. Where is he? Is he in the active start? Is he in the fundamental stage? Is he in the learn to train, or train to train, or train to compete? This is so important, so crucial in the development and building up of the player.
For all sports are important general abilities, and our main focus needs to be about developing fundamental skills. What is your opinion, Nabel?
Fundamental of movement skills is the basic requirement that should be developed in the earliest stage. It is recognized by the ABCs. It is A for agility, B for balance, C for coordination, S for speed.
Healthy lifestyle, it's really important. That can you told us some main schematic or main focus on which need to concentrate it, please?
Yes, it is rule of the thumb in scientific research that the age between 7 to 11 for girls, 8 to 12 for boys, it is the sky limit for the technical improvement of the player. This is where we have an opening for windows of trainabilities for different motor qualities. If it is neglected, the development will be slower and it will be minimized. These opportunities are shown by markers where we will show in the next slide. We are measuring the peak height velocity, peak height velocity. As you can see here, the fundamental movement skills and the fundamental sport skills, these combined together, this develop the physical literacy. It is before the age of 11 for female and the age of 12 for males, before the onset of the growth spurt.
Which factor can influencing long-term development athletes? Because in past we have also some question if can be influenced by floor if we are playing on the ground, or which kind of the factors are important in LTAD?
It is a great question, Dr. Alona. It's a great question. With the key factors influencing the long-term athlete development based on research and scientific finding, we have the 10-year rules or the 10,000 hours. We have to understand the fundamental stage, and you can see in the number 2, the fundamental, the first 3 letters, the FUN is fun. Train, educate, learn through fun. Specialization, we have the early specialized sport and the late specialized sport. We have to acknowledge the developmental age and the chronicle age is 2 different aspects, and we can see it that 2 players or 4 players in the same age with different abilities and different heights. We have the windows of trainabilities, then we have the periodization principles, and we have to have a system alignment and integration. What we mean of this, the system of competition, the system of the rules of the game. That's why we are happy, we are honored to present handball at a school. This is the suitable ingredients for development, the future handball player in these stages. Then we have to have the system, the proper system of competition. Not too much games, not lose games, not too much training. It is the intensity and the volume of training and the continuous improvement. Einstein says, when you stop learning, you start dying. This is where we have to continue learning through these courses and through our work and our findings. Yeah, this is where we have the 10 S's. It is the 5 S's for the stamina, which is endurance, the strength, the speed, have 2 windows of trainability, the skills, and the suppleness means the flexibility. They add the 5 S's, which is the structure of the planning, the psychology, the substances means the supplement we are having, the schooling system, and the social culture. This is the overall picture of developing a player, nurturing a champion, having a top elite athlete is not easy. It's a process, but we like to concentrate on the mass. Then it's like a pyramid. We have the top and the end.
Mentioning an interpretation on PHV, why we do it, for which occasion we need it to work with the young players.
This is absolutely, Dr. Alona, this is, ladies and gentlemen, this is absolutely important. The peak highest velocity where you measure 4 times a year the child, and it will determine that there is a period where you will see the growth is so high. Before the growth and after the growth, this is the windows of trainabilities will open. And for every child, you have the sequence from 3 to 4 centimeters a year. Then suddenly, of course, for the girls easier, for the girls before, and for the boys after. This is puberty. You will see a jump, and after the jump immediately where you have the puberty. And this is the important, this is the neglected area where we have to really to provide the proper training. And we can see in the rest picture, the photos, that the standing measurement, you can measure it. Then you have the torso or the trunk measurement while sitting, then the arm, the width of the arm. It's very, very simple, 3 measurements, and you can record it, and you can do it 4 times a year, and you will see the jump. Then you can relate it to your program.
This is fantastic topic about physical literacy. I can imagine that we can discuss about it hours and hours, but we have a limited time. I would like to kindly ask you, Nabil, if you can summarize this topic and outcome some main points what the participants will keep in the mind, please.
I want the participant, the dear participant, to think of this. If you want to teach Latin to Johnny, little boy, of course you have to know Latin, but it is so important to know Johnny. We have to know the player. We have to know the development, the growth and development in order to optimize the training and the quality of the training and the kind of the training which we are introducing to the player. This is the conclusion. No Johnny and no Latin, you can have the development.
Thank you.
Well, as we said before, participants chose the topics of talent identification too. And if you're attending this right now, you can send some complimentary questions if you like. But I'm going to ask Gerard a question, and I'm wondering if you can explain what is a sport talent and what is talent detection.
Thanks, Greg. Well, there is a false impression in coaches, which is to think that the most mature and well-trained players are the best suited to practice our sport. We will try to explain that the players who stand out the most in the present do not have to be the most talented. And in fact, the identification of talents is based on predicting who will stand out in the future. What is a sport talent? What is talent? First of all, it's not a fixed capacity. That means that players' capabilities can develop over time. Talent detection is the discovery of potential performers who are not currently involved in our sport, but are able to be fantastic players in the future. There is not unity of criterion among experts, but it seems to be linked not only to be a single indicator, but also to a multi-dimensional nature. And we are searching for players who have genetical potential for the practice above the average, even though they haven't practiced handball yet.
I think that it's really important to know different approach for the talent identification, because we have the chance today that we have here lectures from different continents. That I would like continue with you, Gerard, because from Europe it can be different approach. Can you explain on what coaches should focus? What do you mean about it?
Okay, thanks, Ilona. Talent identification is a matter of recognizing participants with the potential at an earlier age to become elite performers in the future. As example, I will try to explain how do we manage to identify a handball talent and in our proposal, which is in Spain. It's a model based on the Spanish Federation, which has been applied for the last 20 years.
Okay, thank you. Now I will ask, because in Asia, especially in Bahrain, it can be a little bit different, the process of the talent identification. What you like to output, Nabil, about this important topic?
Do you have
some program for it?
It is so important, like linking it to the physical literacy, the importance of the early detection of new talents. And in our small country, where we are so good in handball, that we have like a cooperation between the public school and the clubs and the federation. It's a link where you go to the classes. The PE teachers are a good catalyst with the coaches in different clubs, where they have a certain exercises, or I should say tests, where they test the player's ability and the best based in the benchmark of the other countries that is developed. We have seven tests that has been done in the all public school, the primary school, and the finding of those 7 tests will determine to a certain level in which sport they can be or they have the interest on. So this is what we are doing in Bahrain.
Thank you. Greg, in 2019, you participated with your junior team in the World Championships, but it is not only the championships, it is journey to come to the World Championships. What is the aspect to your approach which you use in USA?
Well, what's interesting in USA, we have since we're at the earliest stages of developing a long-term athlete development program, which we put together over the last 2 years, but still haven't released. We still are in these early stages of cobbling together players and trying to use rudimentary knowledge on athlete talent transfer from other sports at different age groups. But I've been struck by each level that I move up, from national to continental to now having coached at the World Championships, because if anything, after you tag the games and you analyze the games and you see the skills you're contending with, it helps you better understand when you return home what you need to look for and what you need to develop with players. I loved playing. We lost horribly to Slovenia, but the creativity of the players and the consistency of the players was amazing to me. And I truly believe that's not just about repetition, but there is a talent aspect to that. When we played Spain, they only had 3 turnovers in an entire game. And for me, that's an astounding number to have, only 3 turnovers. And I think that's beyond just repetition of tasks, but a real identifier of talent. And I think it's important for us in America to have these opportunities to play at a high level.
Thank you, Greg. Gerard, you mentioned that you have some model in Spain. Can you explain which aspects are relevant to identify sports talent, please?
Yeah, but if you don't mind, I will after the explanation of my colleagues Navel and Greg, I would like to point out that to ensure that the talent detected can improve their experience through training, we must carry out the identification of talents as soon as possible. Fortunately, the life of handball players is quite long compared to other sports in which the maximum performance is obtained at a very young age. In any case, in Spain, we try to assess under 14 years old players. You can take into account the test, what are we going to explain or change the criteria, but it is important that the same tests are maintained over a long period of time. This will allow us to see the evolution of the players in each of the areas, and not least, it will allow us to compare the results with those obtained by other groups of players in any other city or country.
Okay, then we can move on, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Well, we differentiate 4 areas, and the key point is to focus on those capabilities that, being fundamental for performance, are difficult to improve with training. The first is biological area. The collaboration of an expert is essential. Therefore, medical control is needed. We focus on health control, biological potential of the subject, and detection of anomalies as growth problems, decompensation problems, back alignment problems, and so on, or chronic diseases by applying a medical check. Anthropometric data such as height, weight, diachromial diameter, hand size, body composition, and there's a main factor in handball, which is the laterality domain, left-handed or right-handed players. Due to that, there are less left-handed players than right-handed players. So it's a key point, okay? The biological age and the state of maturation, there's differences in the timing of maturity, and have been shown to impact athlete selection. Think about 2 problems. What happens when children of different ages compete on the same team? Who gets hurt? And what happens, or what about earlier maturity and late maturity players sharing team? So this is the point. There's a second area, which is the physical area. Well, those capabilities with greater genetic dependence, it is about ruling out capacities that have a high margin for improvement thanks to training, such as endurance. As examples, explosive strength, we apply horizontal jump and vertical jump tests. Speed and agility assessment containing short runs and changes of direction. The psychological area, it is important to have the help of an expert in psychology, because they are going to use some of the validated tests based on rubrics or inquiries, which are commonly used over the wall to evaluate the emotional control. Is the player capable of self-control while playing? The attentional focus. Do have the player resources to focus on the specific task? The intrinsic feedback, which means the physical feel of the movement as being performed, or the extrinsic feedback, which is it measures the capability for change based on information provided by external sources. The motivation and the leadership. What is the profile of a leader? These kind of things are important for us. And then we move to the qualities for play handball. Okay. The first is motor coordination. Sorry, one moment, Craig, please.
Yes, just instruct me, and I will start it.
Sorry, but it's interesting because we can maintain the scheme here. That's good for me. We must avoid specific tactical situations to evaluate the ability to play. Think that those players who have been playing longer or who have more hours of training will have too much advantage. Remember, we do not evaluate the current performance. We try to predict the future. Do not evaluate with specific tactical tests, but with variable situations to adapt to 3 domains. The first one is the motor coordination. Many of the exercises, as we are going to see now in the screen, are exercises proposed by Professor Pablo Greco in his wonderful presentation, serve as tests to assess the ability to adjust our behavior to context factors such as space, time, and material. Secondly, tactical intelligence and convergent thinking. The second video, where we can use platforms far from the rules of handball to assess the effectiveness in new situations. When we speak of tactical intelligence, we refer to the players making decisions. For this, we need to create game situations like the one you see, forcing the player to decide which is the best option. For example, in attack, pass the ball or score a goal. This ability to select the best response is called convergent thinking. And the third main point is the tactical creativity and divergent thinking. In this video, we will see that creativity is a different capability and should be assessed too. In this case, we use a platform in which players can only take one action: in attack, passing, and in defense, intercepting a ball. Creativity is based on being successful by creating different unexpected variants for the same game action. This capability is also called divergent thinking.
Thank you, Gerard. Nabil, I have one question from participants to you, because you mentioned that you have 7 different tests for the talent identification. If you can mention a little bit which kind of the test you are using it to explain to participants this test, please.
Yeah, we have like the 30-meter sprint. We have the standing long jump, and we have the standing vertical jump. We have the agility test. Then we have a throwing of basketball from sitting down. Then we have like the dribbling between cones. Then shooting at the empty goal. These are the 7 handball tests we are using.
Thank you. I can join that we have in the Czech Republic also test battery, which we are using for the monitoring the performance of the players. We are using for the speed test, the agility test. Then for the coordination and involving manipulation of the ball, we are using dribbling test on the 8 track between the cones to 5 to 3 meters. Then we have the long jump. We are monitoring also the velocity and speed of the shoot from the 7-meter 7-meter line to see the velocity of the speed. And as the last one, we have the endurance test, beep test. It is the endurance test. Greg, we receive also one question of the participants because they are asking if there are only the somatic factors that we need to take only if the players stall for the selection or during the talent identification, or if there are some another factors like factors which are not skills. I'm asking you, Greg, because I know that maybe Gerard will speak about this a little bit later also.
I know. Of course, you look at the traditional anthropometric qualities of a player, but the initial impression, and especially when you work with children, is not what the end result often is. And so, especially with children, since we're talking about children, especially in that 8 to 11, that pre-puberty phase, it's really hard to know. My son was the shortest kid in class and probably graduated one of the tallest in high school, but for years he was way behind. And so it's really hard to understand where people are going to be. So you have to look beneath the surface, so to speak, to see what intangible aspects or athlete qualities does a player have. And in the United States, I don't often have the benefit of seeing players at a young age play handball. I often see them and I have to transfer the knowledge of a sport that's similar to handball, maybe in basketball, and I have to break the habits, but I'm looking for cutting moves. I'm looking, that can translate to for goal moves, and what, or their size and strength, can they, and so you look for these qualities, but you also look for a court sense. You look for their ability to, like, we're going to do a national tryout this weekend and we're going to present them with new drills they've never seen before to see how they respond, how quickly they take in the information, and then translate that into action on the court, and that tells us a lot too about a player.
Before that, we will move to another session. I have one more question from the participants. They are asking, as we are performing the test, the physical test or different test battery, how we ranking the players, how we ranking the obtains the data. Gerard, can you explain us this? We have short part also in our book, but they are asking how to classify it.
Well, I'm going to explain it in the next slide.
Let's go. Let's
go. If you don't mind, yeah. I'm going to explain. I really enjoyed your information because, it's really interesting. The most important thing is to maintain this kind of test that you are in your own countries are applying, because the data will be registered, recorded, and then you can compare different groups, and this is so interesting. There's no matter the kind of test you try to apply. The important thing is to maintain this kind of test, to compare the evolution of the player and to compare one group of players with another group of players. This is the most interesting thing. Sorry. How we interpret the data obtained for talent selection. Here you are. We recommend to use a capacity map that allows us to graphically assess the player's profile in different quadrants. In each of the capacities, each of the lines that you see in the figure, of each one of the areas, we write down the score obtained by the player. 0 points will be in the center of the circle and 10 points in the farthest part of it. In the next slide, we focus on the map's interpretation, no matter the questions. And here you have what finally we decide. We point from 0 to 10 each one of the tests that we made. And after that, we must tend to accept balanced profiles in all areas and discard those that are slightly unbalanced or that stand out above the average in only one of the areas. Therefore, if we had to select one of the profiles, that you see in the figure. Without doubt, we will choose the middle one. The middle one, since it has height values extended in all areas, and the profile is also balanced among all of them. I don't know if you agree with me.
Gerard, I agree with you, and I have one question for you. What do you think? What do you mean if one player is really talented, but not so big, that it's not so tall, that it's really average, smaller one? What is your opinion about this player?
I suppose that in our country, because of the research of a balance in each one of the areas, we have the problem that sometimes we eliminate the taller players because they are very bad at the other areas, you know. But I think that if the player has a psychological, biological, physical, and play areas well balanced, it can have the future. And that's another thing that I would like to explain you, which is we are not assessing the current level of the player. This player can be higher in a short time. We can ask for the height of their parents, of their relatives, and probably this player will grow up in the future. So a talented player is a player who is good at all the areas, not only in one of them.
Thank you, Gerard. This topic is also really huge and big, and especially in the talent identification, it is not doing during one day. We need to set up some kind of the pyramidal process and need to work through the different structure and strategy of the country and federation. For the few last moments which we had for this topic, can you develop some advances, some conclusion for the participants of this important topic?
Okay, well, we should try to build our own criteria for talent detection, identification, and selection, as we told before, depending on the resources we have. But this is only the beginning. Next step will be talent development. Understanding development implies creating favorable learning environments and giving the players the possibility of grow up and performance. The continuity of the players will depend on the athlete-related factors as housing or the relationship sport studies, the education-related factors as important, for instance, coaching programs, and also the research-related factors. Think about grouping the players as biobanding, say, in their studies, by level of maturity rather than by chronological age. This is really important and is the little bit summary of this part.
Organized and unorganized sport are critical points in a young person's lifelong journey towards an active and healthy lifestyle, as we have discussed a few minutes ago during the physical literacy and the talent identification.
In a world where phones, video game systems, television, and of course internet monopolize so much of young children's time, there is no more satisfaction for parents that only to see the children sitting, that they try to put the children outside in the fresh air, to the gymnasium, try to set up some organizing activity that they can go outside to getting some exercises to be healthy.
Kids learn teamwork, sportsmanship. It builds self-confidence and specific athletic skills, and it gets children exercising in practice and in games. They also learn how to be both graceful winners and losers, as well as it can lead to important parent-child time together, a routine, and unexpected friendships.
Ladies and gentlemen, organized sports have become standard for children as young as 4 years old, sometimes even younger. And one more reason why parents encourage sport is to boost the child health. Unfortunately, obesity is on the increase.
And unfortunately, organized youth sport present only a small part of physical activities that children need for healthy lifestyle. On the other hand, only those who are not in the box trying to develop themselves more and looking for other options can be really successful.
Sports, like play, used to belong entirely to kids. Just a few generations ago, there weren't many organized sports programs, especially for kids younger than teens. Kids loved sports with just as much fervor as they do today, but to engage in them, they simply went outside, found a few other kids, and played.
Children are normally full of energy. They plan energetically for the sheer joy of movement, and that is a key factor that we need to address.
A group of IHF dedicated experts wondered how children around the world could help them develop through simple exercises and games with their loved ones.
We are aware that when children gain autonomy in the sense of the desire to improve, look for other opportunities to development, they will be oriented and also develop it much more better and took the habits for their life. We promised a surprise for the children, and here is. It's called IHF Youngsters Training Diary.
What is the training diary? The training diary is composed of several pages. For example, basic information about the International Handball Federation, a page for personal information about the child. It has some basic theoretical information and some advice for the youngsters. There's individual exercises and game activities for the whole family. It even has motivation from handball stars, a part where children can note their own reflections, or a place where they can try to get signatures of their favorite handball players. And the whole team who prepared this material for you, which includes the IHF, authors, handball stars, IHF video team, and the IHF staff behind the scene. We wish you well in your activities in progress, alone or together with your friends.
Please look at the video where we will show you general overview of training diary for children.
I think the most important for children when they want to play handball is to have fun. Just enjoy and have fun on the training.
It's not a process of one day, but it's of every day. If you love it and if you're happy when you're playing, then keep playing and keep pushing every day till you reach. You never know where you can be.
Handball has faster tempo and you have to work together with your teammates to score.
For all the children that are now starting to play handball, I want to leave one message. Don't give up.
The most important thing when you are young is to enjoy the sport, share moments with friends and have fun.
Crianças, eu convido vocês a praticar o handball.
走る、飛ぶ、投げるっていう運動要素に必要な機能性がすごく混ざってるので、実際
Now we will show you how, or illustrate how to use the training diary. First, make a short warm-up and then train it a little bit, train the exercise for a little bit. As you will be ready, then try to measure how many repetitions you are able to do. Here you can see an example of jump rope for 30 seconds. After the 30 seconds, you write the date, maybe you can do it before date, and how many repetitions you have made in this 30 seconds. You continue, of course, you can continue train the other exercises training, and after few days, you can try to perform it again, and you can see the progress of your development.
We prepare this IHF training diary for the youngsters in several forms. It will be available in the interactive form that you can see whole videos of the exercise, that you only click on the camera icons and pop up the slide with the exercise. This will be linked in the IHF Education Center really soon. In the web page of the ihf.info, you can find the PDF of the training diary, which you can download and print it out and use it in your daily work and improve your skills. That don't hesitate going to the IHF website, where will be really soon available for you this different format of the IHF training diary.
Now we move to the conclusion.
I saw that it's really important. Also today we receive a lot of questions when, how we will receive the certificate. We set up clear rules at the beginning of the symposium that participants who will attend all 8 live webinars via Zoom, via the inscription into Zoom, can receive these certificates with your names. We had a large number of the participants, and we are so grateful for it, because we know that you need to know a little bit more and prepare your training as will be possible. But as it's this large number of the participants, we will try to prepare the certificates as soon as possible. And in due times, we will send these certificates to your email address. Please note once more time, only participants who attend 8 webinars via Zoom can receive these participants. But in case, if in August you will not receive the certificates, please write to the IHF office your name and initials about this stuff, and we will go through it and send you it. Craig, can you make a short conclusion of the first part today, because it was so important how from rules we can move to the future of the improvement of the skills and work with the children, please?
Yeah, it's the one important factor is the creation of dynamic play for the future of the sport, and the future for us as teachers and coaches is to create an environment in which kids and adolescents can thrive in that dynamic, interactive, as my colleague lectured on, with those activities. I think it's very important, and I'm excited that we can be the bridge to the future.
Nabil, I would like to kindly ask you also about the few words to conclusion for the physical literacy.
Dr. Alona, we don't have to reinvent the wheel for the physical literacy. The human being in all over the world are the same. Research is there, scientific proof is there. We just need to link it to our program. Windows of trainabilities, the system of competition, the early deductions, all of it, the overall welfare of the human being through sport and taking into account.
Thank you. Gerard, what about the talent identification? What is the key aspect what the PE teachers and coaches have to have in their mind?
Well, Ilona, to sum up, talented players should be detected by assessing their genetic potential. Talent identification means predicting the future performance of players. And talent selection is not a matter of a single capacity, but a multidimensional analysis. And the most important thing, we must resolve the question about talent development. We must ensure that our players grow in a perfect environment to develop their capacities.
Thank you.
And from all of us, we feel it's very important to acknowledge and thank our ambassadors for their work and contribution to this program, this webinar series, because without them, without heroes, children have nothing to strive to be or enjoy. And I think it's really important for us to acknowledge that they put in a lot of time and effort to help us and support us and to help children around the world become active and engaged participants in their lives. And we are very thankful for everything that they did, and we look forward to working with them in the future.
Handball is a team sport, and also the development of handball for children takes teamwork. And I would like to thank all the people around the world who try to progress in this field. First, I would like to express our gratitude to the direction of the International Handball Federation, especially to the IHF President, Dr. Hassan Mustafa, for his support, Managing Director, Madame Amal Khalifa, for her vision and hard daily work. We appreciated the close and fruitful cooperation with the CCM chairman, Dietrich Spate, and for the continuity of our work, it is important that we will link together our topic to develop the children to playing handball also in the future. For the leadership, open-minded and long experiences in the education domain, which is shared with us, we would like to thank you, Dr. František Táborský. I would like to express a few words to the handball at school lecturers here in the picture, which was made last year in Hungary during our meeting, for their motivation and energy which they put in the daily work with the children and in their work through the mission. Especially thank you for the lecturers of the symposium and staff behind the scene, like whole staff in the IHF office, head office in Basel, IHF video team around the world and presented here with us in front of the scene with beautiful Courtney, with her professional analysis of the situation and question and approach. Whole translators, because without them, the message is not passed through. And most important is that the message is passed to you. And of course, you who are in the work with the children, then thank you so much for the attention.
Well, I will just want to say, beyond what I said for the ambassadors, we are very appreciative of the leadership and their support of us and trust in us. And it is only because we are really inspired and motivated to get children playing, and they are inspired and motivated to empower us to do so. Can webinars and programs like Handball at School be possible even in the first place? And I just want to thank everyone and the participants for putting in 4 weeks of time and taking away from your lives to learn to be better at what you do. And that's the whole reason we're here, because when you're better, kids are better.
Of course, our passion and commitment from IHF, from all the experts, it's a continuous project. We will continue providing, planning, development of all our handball family through courses, upcoming courses. We will continue developing, as Dr. Hassan Mustafa had a goal for our handball participant to increase, and we have our own passion to reach to you. And through our communication, we can wait for courses and activities to come in the future.
I would like to thank all the participants for their loyalty during these days, the support of my colleagues, Ilona, Craig, and Nabel, the opportunity and the facilities provided by the International Handball Federation staff. And finally, I would like to thank all the handball experts who have worked on handball before me, as they have been and will be a source of inspiration. Thank you very much.
Maybe now will be time if we will have some more questions through the chat or questions. Courtney, did you have someone?
I have 2 questions that are a bit general that I think would be a good thing to end with. And they're topics that have come up through many lectures. So let's re-bring these messages home. People are asking about the time for young children and juniors, training time and match time for a week, for a month, for a year. What are your recommendations?
Okay, that I will start. It depends the youngest children. That with the really youngest children under 7 years old, we can have the session where we are really focusing about 45 minutes. But if we take a time as the children comes, you can say hi, hello, how are you? Then you join it. It's more linking how long they are able to focus, not about the long duration of the lesson, because focus is the key of the useful teaching and learning. That you alternate different activity, and then as the children learn focus longer, then you increase the training lesson. From the youngest children, we can have a training only 1 time per the week, and then of course we increase the duration and number of the lectures per week.
And I could add that in many culture or many societies, children will do several sports. So you have to put in account that they will come to you maybe once, twice, 3 times a week, where the measurement of time is the entrance and the involvement of the children. You can plan, but you have to make sure that, like what Dr. Alona said, 50 minutes, 45 minutes, you have to make sure that the interest, the focus are there. Because the most important factor, or one of the most important factor, that children will adapt, will love the sport to continue in the sport.
And I will just say that I think it's hard, and it might be different in other parts of the world, but it's so competitive here in the United States, and that when you have an athlete training with you, it's so easy to want to have that athlete's focus and attention be on you, but that's not what's best for the athlete in the long run, and ironically not the best for you or your program. And so, like I spoke in my lecture, a diversity of activities, both within our practice models and teaching plans, but also for the children. And we need to encourage, we need to encourage multi-sport participation. We need to encourage, especially in this pre-puberty into peak height velocity time frame, you really need to encourage a diversity of activities for their own enjoyment, for not overtraining, for repetitive use injuries prevention, but also just for they build a new they'll become better athletes the more sports they play, but sometimes it's hard for us to see that when we stand so close to the situation. So I just encourage all teachers and coaches out there to be encouraging especially your children in the 8 to 14 range to be playing all the sports they can, and on the side be having activities that are fun and enjoyable and athletic, but not, like we said, but unorganized. They need to be healthy for life, and that becomes part of your life.
Well, I totally agree with my colleagues. And about time of competition, well, I think that we need to not reduce the time, but divide the parts of the game in periods, as we used to do in each one of the countries. Divide the same time of the match, divide in different periods, and it will be possible to ensure that all the players play on an equal situation in the match. That's all.
Very good point.
Oh, sorry.
No.
This is one thing we've also talked about in a few of the lectures, but I think let's try and deliver a conclusion here. So we've talked about talent identification and so on in this lecture, and people are asking, again, what are the factors that you try to bring to keep children interested in handball? If you detect that they're interested in leaving handball for another sport, how do you try to keep them really interested in handball?
Sometimes, and I guess I'll start that, and I have painful periods of coaching and the youth national team because I often lose my best players for a period of about 18 months as they compete for college scholarships from about the end of their sophomore years of high school, so about 16 to about 17 and a half. I often am competing with other sports or lose them completely. I often get them back, but I think it's to keep them focused and entertained and have a fun atmosphere is something that I've often turned to in that situation to provide stimulus for them to come back, to at least come once a week. I often make my schedules more flexible for these athletes that I know are playing lacrosse and football and soccer 3-4 days a week, and and they're not going to come for 3 practices for me, but if they make it to 1, I try to be flexible, and I don't give them preference like in game time, but I don't want to lose them. I put a lot of work into developing them, and then I'm not Gerard, and I'm with 500 left wings waiting in the balance to make the national team. And so I feel it's more, I've invested a lot of time, and it's important for me to create alternative solutions to that problem, because you're going to have sensitive periods where athletes leave or they just get frustrated and are tired of it. So
I should say that based on research, the reasons why children move from sport, either it's too boring, the exercise you are doing is too boring, the commitment from the program is too high, other interests aside from the sport, and they lose the contact with the group they are with. So as a coach, maintain the interest of the player. Make sure that you make the player, he is a young athlete, a promising athlete, but he have other side of his life he have to live through also. Make sure that the group dynamic and team synergy is there as a coach, and please be careful with over emphasizing in the sport in the expense of their social life?
Well, in my case, unfortunately, handball is not one of the most games that our children plays. We have really problems about it. And I suppose that it depends on each one of the countries. In our case, I can well affirm that those players who comes to play handball, they don't renounce, they don't let leave the handball, because we are, I think that in each one of the countries, we are really good methodologically, and I think that we must put this in front of us. And I think that we are one of the best methodological approaches to a team sports, rather than other sports that, well, perhaps they have the attraction and the media are focused on these sports. But in our case, I'm proud of the methodological work that we are doing in the whole world.
I will be really short. It is also about to show children which opportunities they can have in our family, in our handball family, in our sports. What they can grow up and which journey they can take it. Because sometimes if they start to playing, they couldn't imagine what everything is possible in our sports. Then show them opportunities, give them the possibilities to go and move forward to be successful in this field.
Okay, thank you everybody. So I think that brings us to the end. So I will wrap up for us if everyone agrees.
I think we have one more. We're going to talk about upcoming events and then for you,
Oh, yes.
Courtney. So we'll quickly just discuss our upcoming events.
Yes, we have activities. We through dedication of our lecturer, our committees, and handball at school courses with the D renewal of the D and the multiplier course. This is something we are looking forward to. Handball at school campaign, new material is coming up. IHF Handball Week, like with the success we have been encountered, will encourage us to do more. And the online event will be continuing. Just guys, be with us, and handball will continue, and we are doing, I hope through you, the great job we are doing is with you and for you.
I would like just to say that we wish again to traveling around the whole world to see you on the field in your country, and we would like to balance by distance education and with you in your home time, with your children, that we can teach you in your place with your facilities and possibilities and materials which you have. That we will continue to working with the online session, but at the same time we are preparing the materials which will be set up for you in the place. In due time, really soon, will be IHF Handball Week, which is usually celebrating handball around the world. And we wish that one day during this Handball Week will be completely focused to the children, because children are so important for the future of the community, for the future of the whole planet, that we need to keep them and educate them correctly.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Courtney. Do you have some last closing, please, comments?
Yes, I will just say, well, from my side, I would like to congratulate the Handball at School Working Group for this program. It's been really amazing to see every day comments from all around the world, people joining and finding your lectures so informative. So on behalf of everyone around the world who loves handball and wants to see a good future, I would like to say thank you to you. To our audience, As mentioned, we have plenty still coming up, so please keep an eye always on ihf.info and follow us on our IHF social media channels so you have all the latest news always. So that brings us to the end. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you to everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
See you. Bye.
Stay
Bye.
healthy. Stay healthy. Thank you.